In the last essay, I spoke about the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin's links to weapons, drugs, and their rationalizations of pedophilia. In this essay, I want to talk specifically about Gerry Adams, about how Gerry Adams, the president and leader of the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin, facilitated child sex trafficking on behalf of his publisher Steve Mc Donagh. Gerry has already publicly admitted to moving the victims of child sex abuse across borders. Gerry Adams' publisher, a man known as Steve Mc Donagh of Brandon Publishing in Dingle, County Kerry, he is now deceased. Steve Mc Donagh published 3 books for Gerry Adams. They had a very strong relationship that lasted over 20 years. Gerry Adams carried Stevie Mc Donagh's coffin when he died. Stevie Mc Donagh was a convert to Islam and a pedophile who spent many years going over and back to Morocco, helping the children of Morocco, as reported by the Irish media. Stevie Mc Donagh met his future wife and the mother of his 2 children in Agadir, Morocco, when she was just 11 years of age. Stevie Mc Donagh spent a number of years grooming his future wife in Morocco before he brought her to Ireland at just 15 years of age. Stevie Mc Donagh hid her in a bedroom in his house in Dingle for at least 2 years until she reached the age he could legally marry her in Ireland. For the sake of this essay, I will refer to this child as Mary. However, her real name is reported in the Irish media as the loving wife of Stevie Mc Donagh. She wasn't his loving wife. She was the victim of child sex trafficking, as the Irish media well knew at the time. I met Mary as an adult in Cork 4 years ago. Over the course of a month, she revealed the shocking story of her life to me. She told me that Stevie Mc Donagh was introduced to her when she was just 11 years old by her father. Mc Donagh was introduced to her as a Muslim man and the financial patron of her family. Mc Donagh would visit Mary in Morocco many times over the next few years, presenting the family with gifts and cash. Eventually, Mary's father agreed to sell her to Mc Donagh for the sum of €5,000. Mary recalled for me when she was a young girl, her father brought her to the passport office in Morocco. Mary remembered finding it peculiar that the lady behind the glass in the passport office was crying while she processed Mary's visa paperwork. Mary remembered the lady at the passport office in Morocco telling her that she must be a very special girl because her visa paperwork had come through in record time. Years later, Mary would figure out why the lady in the passport office was crying. The lady in the passport office knew that Mary was being sex trafficked to Ireland, and she also knew that the only way her paperwork could come through so fast was through some form of official Irish channel. Mary told me that she never signed any paperwork for a visa. Mary recalled for me that after arriving in Ireland from Morocco, she would go on to spend the following 2 years hidden in a room in Stevie Mc Donagh's house. During this time, Gerry Adams was a frequent visitor to the Mc Donagh household, especially at weekends. Stevie Mc Donagh told Mary to call Gerry Adams Uncle Gerry, as he was the man who made it possible for her to get a visa to come to Ireland. Many years earlier, Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA had adopted the international communist strategy of getting their members into positions of power in the civil service, Gardaí, judiciary, colleges and schools. An elderly IRA man told me how the Provisional IRA had followed a judge from the Special Criminal Court in Dublin out to Thailand on his holidays. The elderly IRA man told me the Provisional IRA got photographs of this judge having sex with children, and they were able to use these photographs to get some of their more high-profile members off serious charges in the Special Criminal Court. He told me that they could not use this corrupt judge for every case, just the high-profile cases, because the Free State authorities would figure out that the Provisional IRA had this judge in their pocket. In his early 50s, Stevie Mc Donagh married Mary, soon after she fell pregnant with her first child. Not long after her first child was born, Mary decided to escape from Mc Donagh. She left Dingle for her aunt's house in Lyon, France, taking her daughter with her. Not long after arriving in Lyon, Mary's aunt phoned her father in Morocco to tell him where Mary was. Mary was told she would suffer a so-called honor killing if she stayed in Lyon or returned to Morocco, and that she had to go back to Dingle, or she would bring shame on her family. Mary's father rang Stevie Mc Donagh to tell him where Mary was located. Yet again, Gerry Adams was able to expedite visa paperwork using his contacts in the Irish civil service to get Mary and her child back into Ireland against her will, without her signature. When Mary returned to Ireland, everything went back to normal at McDonagh's house in Dingle. She was forced to show Gerry Adams gratitude and respect during his frequent visits to the McDonagh household. Mary would soon become pregnant with her second child. She recalled that McDonagh would take her to restaurants in Dingle and to parties, book launches and poetry readings around the country, held by the literary set of Ireland, that to this day revere McDonagh so much. The people of the Irish literary set at these parties would often comment that Mary looked so young and that McDonagh should force her to speak in a more adult tone and wear makeup to hide her young age. McDonagh died in 2010. Gerry Adams carried his coffin, and Mary was free to return to Agadir in Morocco and here rear her young family. There is nothing new in this report about Gerry Adams, Sinn Féin or the Provisional IRA. Gerry Adams has previously admitted to the Irish, Northern Irish and British media, 1. that his father, a founding member of the Provisional IRA, also called Gerry Adams, was a pedophile and that he had abused his children. 2. that he knew for many years that his brother Liam was a pedophile and that both Sinn Féin and Gerry Adams covered this up for many years while they kept his brother employed. 3. Gerry Adams has admitted to moving the victims of the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin pedophiles over and across borders for the purposes of cover-up at the direction of and on behalf of the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin. Gerry Adams has admitted 4. Gerry Adams has admitted to moving Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA pedophiles over and across borders for the purposes of cover-up at the direction of and on behalf of the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin. There are no new charges for Gerry Adams in this account. There is just another victim to add to the already long list of sexual abuse victims of the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin. For those who find this account hard to believe, I would suggest that they are trying to mentally block out the truth about Gerry Adams, the Provisional IRA and Sinn Féin through a process known as cognitive dissonance. The globalist MI6 security service have used their history of pedophilia to control Gerry Adams, Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA for decades. MI6 are still in control of Gerry Adams, Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA, directly because they refuse to face up to their history of paedophilia. Instead, the Communist Provisional IRA and the Communist Sinn Féin use their positions in Irish politics and the Irish criminal underworld to advocate for the rights of pedophiles and to implement a perverted sexual education curriculum in our schools, in the hope of causing the chaos they need to usher in their true objective, a communist Ireland. Gerry Adams, Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA insult and corrupt the Republic of Ireland day by day. They have the brazen malice for the Irish people to hide their despicable nature behind the sacred memory of Ireland's Republican heroes. Bastards.